You're so talented, yo, but your marketing sucks.
That this is one podcast you do not want to miss.
The only reason you have a 9 to 5 is because that business has a system.
How you got to hook people, make them retain, stay here, and then want to come back for more
Content. Everything has patterns. The way that people behave. Say you got a flyer, you got a billboard, and you got social media. Pass out 1 million flyers, there's nothing to track.
What's some of the best advice that you've gotten in the past?
If you stay in your own lane, you never have to worry about traffic.
What's going on, beautiful world? Welcome to another episode of the Black Sheep Perspective. Today's guest is Nwosuocha. He's a digital marketing expert, and today he was spitting nothing but fire. If you are a business owner, an artist, or a simple content creator, this podcast is meant for you. You have got to learn all the tricks and trades in social media, marketing yourself, branding, and everything else involved. We go from topics of AI, how to use that to help your business grow, what the strategies are to be successful on TikTok and Instagram, and how important it is to brand yourself. We covered so many topics and so many little details that this is one podcast you do not want to miss, especially if you're anywhere in this world and you want to take yourself to the next level with social media, business, or marketing. So make sure you stay tuned and watch this whole podcast. And by the way, if you like what you're seeing, don't forget to hit subscribe, push that like button, and share this with somebody. Let's get to the podcast. Wes, welcome to the podcast, my brother. Really appreciate you doing this, man. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to educate people with today, man of your intelligence, especially somebody who works in the field that you work in. Mm-hmm. And, I'd like to tell everybody a quick little backdrop story of how we first met. I used to work at the UFC gym back in 2016. We opened it in November. This is here in Miami, in Kendall, little city west of, within the city of Miami. And we were on and popping. We were one of the dopest, livest gyms. And, this gym was one of the first that kind of put everything in perspective in regards to an actual gym with every piece of equipment, everything that was brand new, you just top of the line. But then it also implemented mixed martial arts. So right. on the outside end of this beautiful gym was, a jiu-jitsu class, a wrestling class, an actual UFC cage, and then a kickboxing class. And anyhow, I was one of the top dogs. I like to say that shit with pride. I was there for quite a while, and I had several classes. And man, it's crazy how passion and networking can bring people together, and when you leave the right impact on somebody, it'll last a lifetime. It really will, and you just never know when that'll circle back and make its way back. And kind of like when you have a great teacher, if I ask you right now, who was your favorite teacher in high school, you're gonna know who it is, and here you are in your I'm gonna say 40.
No, I'm not 40.
Goddamn, 39.
Not even
38. Where we at?
Close.
Oh, you haven't hit that yet? Nice. I didn't know. Damn.
Yeah,
now I'm feeling old as shit. But
that's okay. You don't look old though.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you. You were one of the students there. You were one of the gym members there, and unfortunately, I met a lot of people. I met thousands of people there from working there so long, and those classes were huge. And I would have probably about 50 to 60, 70 people sometimes in those classes. And my memory's shot. I smoke a little bit too much, and it doesn't help to retain certain memories, but we saw each other again at Lifetime Fitness. This is years down the line now. We're literally talking almost 10 years down the line. Yeah, pretty much 10 years down the line, 8, right. 9, somewhere around there. And we reconnected. You came up to me. You told me, hey, man, you used to work at the UFC gym. And I said, yeah. And we started talking. You were bringing in the classes and whatnot and started talking there. And then at some point, you were telling me that you were interested in possibly training again. And as we started booking our first session, somewhere there you told me that, you heard about my podcast, and that you were following the podcast and so on and so forth. And then immediately, I guess it's because it's your expertise, it's what you do. It's kind of like if I see somebody throw a whack-ass punch, I want to go up to them and be like,
yeah,
hey,
we know that. We definitely know that.
Fix that form for me, please, bro. You decided you asked me if I would mind if you would audit my page, and I hear audit, I just immediately think some
taxes,
some bad shit. Yeah, man, somebody's coming to get me. I'm like, audit my page? What do you mean? You're like, nah, hold on, it's not what you think. I mean, Leon, let me just tell you what you can do to make it better, so on and so forth. And I was like, at first I didn't know that was your expertise. I'm like, sure, bro, go ahead, So right. you start giving me some valuable information. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, you're doing this right here on the fly. I want to retain this. I'm like, wait a minute, you really know what you're talking about. And you said, yeah, Wes, that's what I do. By the way, guys, his name is Wes too. You're gonna hear Wes. It's gonna go left and right. So You told me, nah, Wes, that's what I do. That's my business. That's actually what I do. I help people get plaques. I help people build their businesses. I help people learn how to use, the social media and brand themselves and so on and so forth. Well, now I want to know more about that. Now I do know about that, and then we'll catch people up to where we're at now with our friendship, with our brothership. And let's give everybody a backdrop as to like how you got there first. First of all, where were you born and raised? What brought you to Miami? Because you got that somewhat northern East Coast slang up there. And then tell us what eventually brought you to becoming a digital marketing specialist is what it is.
Yeah, great question. First, thank you for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it. So just a little backstory about myself. I did move around a lot. So I was born in Houston, Texas. For most people that don't know, I was born in the H. My parents, my father and mother. So my mother was here in the United States. My father immigrated from Nigeria. So yes, I am a Naija boy.
Hey.
And from there we moved to Michigan, and in Michigan we pretty much stayed in Lansing and Detroit. And then from there, we moved around some other places, but we eventually migrated to Miami, in the early 2000s. So I spent the majority of my time here and got to cultivate. And obviously, like, I hated the snow, so that's what kind of kept me here. And as far as digital marketing is concerned, so I originally started off in the music industry, right? And I was an artist. Still am an artist, I still put out, music and things like that. But, my forte, where I learned this from was from the music industry. And in the music industry is that social media, especially when it first came out, it for an artist is everything, because it's one of the core businesses that requires attention. You have to prove yourself. You're always proving yourself as an artist. When you put out music, you're proving to see if it's good with people. Can people remember you? When you come out on stage, your performance, can people remember that? It's attention, as opposed to other businesses. It doesn't really require other than people's attention to kind of stay afloat. So, but a real small story was, as an artist, like everyone else, we always want to, we feel like our talent's the best. Our family says it's good. Our friends says it's good. A couple people say around the way. But then when it comes to the masses, that's very different. So we always ask that question, like, well, why haven't I made it? And my pops, shout out my pops, he used to tell me, man, you're so talented, but your marketing sucks. And my dad had this way of like saying it, obviously saying it not in a negative connotation, but in a way where
step your game up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, to step your game up. And
he knows you can be somewhere better if you would step that part up.
Right. And when I heard that, like, I love a challenge. I'm obviously Wes, obviously I've trained with you, so I love a challenge. And I wanted to try to like take the time and figure that out, and that's what kind of got me into this.
So it was music, being in the music industry, that kind of taught you the ropes of like how important it is to brand yourself, how important it is to work with social media, do these type of things, and then somewhere there you found the opportunity to open up a business there?
Yeah, so small side story. So back in the day when I would perform a lot, I remember I went to A3C, and for all the artists out there, y'all know what that place is. So it's a special showcase that, if you really want to connect with people and stuff like that, it's in Atlanta, Georgia, like the first or second week of October, I don't recall. But I remember being in a panel, and I remember at the panel, they have special speakers and stuff like that. And, as I was doing my research, I was always wondering, like, how important is data when it comes to an artist? Or, how do you find a core audience? And if you can leverage that, how do you do that? And I remember the first time I knew what I was talking about, I was in this panel, and they had Jermaine Dupri. Y'all probably know who that is.
Of course, I do.
And then they had Young Guru, who was Jay-Z's engineer. They had the owner of A3C, and then they had Ninth Wonder. And I remember everybody was asking like these same kind of questions as I went to the Q&A, like, hey, how do I make beats? Or how do I make my song better? Those kinds of things. And, they're just going to give the general information. But I was like, fuck that. Like, how do I, make an audience, and how do I sustain that as a living? As soon as I said that, the whole room got quiet. And I remember afterwards, shout out Young Guru, he had pulled me to the side, we connected, and then things just kind of changed ever since. And I knew as soon as I said that, okay, this is something that people are not focusing on, and this is something that I think is going to be for the future. And so when it tied into businesses, I was like, man, like I know by the time artists started tapping into this, I knew businesses were going to need this. And I noticed that more and more when I was going back and forth to LA, because LA, it's Silicon Valley. They get everything first. So when I started seeing more businesses tap into it, I was like, okay, yeah, I can definitely be on the forefront of this.
I imagine you were balancing life with a regular job of some sort. Did you go to college for this? When did you actually, dare I say, drop your nuts and, take the chance and say, fuck, I'm going to go all in and start this business? Or was this something that you did, on a, let's say, a client by client basis until you realize, okay, there's more demand, and now I need to supply this. Let me get away from this regular job. Right.
Good question. So I have a terrible resume because I'm just like naturally, just to be honest with you, like I'm naturally a hustler. I will always figure it out. If it's 2-3 jobs or if it's a side hustle, whatever, I will always figure it out because time is the most important thing that you can have. As far as college is concerned, I did go to college. I dropped out. In fact, I cannot remember my professor, but she's the one that told me I should drop out. She was like, "You're too smart for this." So
shut up. Professor told you that?
Yeah. She was like, "Listen, like you sleep in my class, but you ace all the exams. So, what are you doing here? I think you can do without this."
At that time, what were you trying to specialize in, or what did you think you were going to do?
Funny enough, psychology at that time.
Really?
Yeah, I was gonna do psychology, and I was gonna do like a minor like C++ for computers and stuff.
Coding.
Yeah,
that's coding, right?
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, but my main thing was psychology. So it's like, okay, it kind of makes sense.
If you take it full circle, look at now, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're not a coder, but you realize the importance of using AI and branding yourself. And in a way, that's kind of like, coding in some shape or form. And you also understand the psychological aspect of it in regards to like how you got to hook people, make them retain, stay here and then want to come back for more. So even though you walked away from it, you're still kind of implementing it, right?
Exactly. So the funny thing is like, like they say about everything in life, everything comes full circle, right?
Right.
When I was, my intention was to, I wasn't going to say I was going to be a psychologist, but I wanted to have something along the lines of understanding people. Because when I was younger, my father went to University of Washington, and I used to go to those classes with him, right? And I remember, because I was pretending, I obviously can't make noise like there's no other kids in here, you know what I'm saying? So I used to read this child psychology book, right? And the only thing that I got from that was that, everything has patterns. The way that we learn how people talk, the way that people behave, they all have patterns, right? So I think if we learn that, we better understand that, we can navigate in society on that way. So I knew that from a young age, right? But when it comes back to everything we're doing now, it's like, wow, like now I understand, why an audience is where it is, or, why, for example, why does somebody, from Chicago like Kanye West, or why does, somebody from the 80s like Jay-Z or whatever.
Psychological connection to
Correct.
it and things of that nature. Yeah.
Correct.
When did you decide you were going to actually open up a business, that it was going to be your business and this is what it was going to entail?
Good question. So, when I started understanding in the music industry, because a lot of the strategies in the music industry are the main focus is attention. You know what I'm saying? It's not like lead generation. It's not like physical sales like you would in e-commerce, right? So it's like, okay, look, like if I'm doing, a strategy, it's like, okay, look, how many views can you get? How many clicks can you get? How does that convert, to somebody following, liking, or sharing or whatever, right? Where with a business, if they're selling products, okay, what gets them to buy the product? What is the conversion for the products, right? Where I kind of decided to start everything was, I knew, okay, so I took a part-time in the hospital, right? So I took a part. So just so y'all understand, like my niche that I work with mostly is with healthcare. I've worked in 12 different niches, so I can do a lot, but that's like my bread and butter, right? So I work with doctors and dentists, right? And I remember when I went to LA, I took one trip to LA, and I remember I was going to I was like in some plaza in like downtown LA, and I remember they had like QR codes when it was like a new thing. And then like people would tell you, hey, follow us, our office on social media. And I was like, why? Like, why would I follow my doctor on social media? You know what I mean? So, but then when I started looking at their pages, I was like, I mean, obviously the content isn't what it is today, but I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like I would connect with this, right? And so I saw, okay, look, there are so many doctors and so many, pretty much doctors or service providers that think that because they built a building that people are just going to come.
Right.
And it's not like that anymore. Like now we know, like we're in the information age. Like I consciously know I have a choice. So now I'm fighting for your attention to find out which one is better. And you have to prove which one is better, if that makes sense.
But when did you know that you can make a business out of that, though? Did you see the competition? Did you see the layout? Did you think there's not enough people doing this, or you did see some and you're like, you know what, I can do this too?
No,
and I asked that because I want to. There's people out there who might want to do the same thing you do. Right. They're in a different era now, right? If these kids are smart enough and they're learning this AI and they're really learning how to, work these systems and do what they're supposed to do, they're going to be in a whole total bracket financially than the rest of us, and that's if they do it. But
right.
At the time that you decided this, that wasn't happening. So I want to motivate them to, when the time comes, when is it right to take a chance and become an entrepreneur and start this business? And when is it the right time to walk away from that regular 9-to-5 that you're doing in order to chase this? When did all that happen to you so that they can see, okay, I like that pattern, that path that he chose, and that's what I'm going to wait to do? Okay,
so that's a great question, and I have a 2-part answer to that, right?
Okay.
So the first thing is when did I know that this was a business, and when did I walk away from that, to pursue it fully, right? So when I knew it was a business was when my first client was, a dentist, and he was able to open up 2 other practices after what we've done, right? I knew already that, we have a product, it's viable, it has a system, so it can easily be replicated. So when you have a product and you have a system to deliver it, that already lets you know you can go to market. So that knows, hey, look, I can at least put this for sale because I can duplicate this. I can do it for you. I can do it for everybody over here or whoever else. That's the first thing, right? When I knew, and I'm going to give you guys some game because I know a lot of people, there's a lot of influencers out there, not to rag on anybody. I know they go say, hey, look, you could just quit and you can make millions of dollars and all that. So let me kill that shit right now, right?
Quick crash dummy course right there.
So here's what you need to know. This is when you need to quit your 9-to-5. First and foremost, numbers are everything, right? When it comes to your business, numbers are everything. And I mean not just numbers on what you're making from your business or your 9-to-5, right? But like you need to know your numbers, right? How much you get paid, if it's bi-weekly, if it's monthly, if it's on the 1st and the 15th, whatever, how much you making, right? Then you need to know your number of your expenses, right? So you know what you net. So if you know what you net, okay, this is the pocket change I get to keep, right? Now in your business, you're going to start off as a side hustle. And let's say you price it in a certain way. You want to price it like, obviously, at the beginning, you might be in a beginner stage. So you might price it differently.
Less than everybody else.
Correct. Because you want to build business, right?
Of course.
If you want to be risky or risque, you can go ahead and, price it competitively. Maybe you feel like, you've built a system that's a premium price, right? But you want to put it in such a way it's like, okay, look, if my side hustle as a side hustle can be able to take care of my monthly expenses because I know the numbers. If you can at least cover your monthly expenses for the next 6 months based on your side hustle, you could walk away.
And you like that formula right there.
Absolutely. You can walk away because guess what? The biggest part, at least with digital marketing, is that one, I work with people at a minimum 90 days. At a minimum. I can't even guarantee any results for 90 days, right? Let alone much case a year. Sometimes I like to work in a year. So that at least gives me enough time to understand, hey, look, I can build out a strategy. I can make sure it's effective. And we have a window of time to watch it grow to see if there's any adjustments that we have. And if I'm doing that over a certain amount of time with a certain amount of people, then I know I can walk away from this. So I would consciously, I don't say I'm the best, but I would say I would consciously people take that into account when you're trying to like jump out of your 9 to 5 into your.
By the way, guys, listen, I got to put these shades on. I have some type of issue that goes on with my eyes, my right eye. I know what y'all going to say. Go see an ophthalmologist. I know the right person, all that riffraff. I thought I did too, and I did see an ophthalmologist. And we can't quite figure it out right now, man. But something happens with my right eye. It gets dry, it gets itchy, it starts tear dropping, and then I get sniffles. And
man, you don't got to make excuses because you want to wear some cool shit.
It's a weird thing, but hey, man, but it looks cool too, you know? So.
You ever seen the show Snowfall?
Isn't that no? That's not Snowfall. I'm thinking the WW007 movie.
No. Snowfall. That's with Damson Idris.
Yeah.
It's basically supposed to be like the story of like the real Rick Ross.
Oh, okay.
If you ever get a chance, watch that. It's on FX. But there's a character in there that when you put these shades on, you remind me. His name is Javi. When you see this again, you'll remember, but you look just like Javi.
If I look like Javi, y'all drop that in the comments. Whoever that is, he better be decent looking, damn it. All right, Wes. Well, look, now that we know what your expertise are, you know what brought you to this point and got you to the level that you are. You know, you're a successful business owner. You have a lot of clients that you're not even allowed to tell me you got NDAs with. You know, I respect that. But you do work with a lot of different clients. Your level of knowledge is crazy. You just came back from give that place a shout out. What is it that you went to?
Yeah, so it was the Miami Mastermind. Shout out to Dre.
Okay,
that was actually probably like one of the best masterminds that I've been to in a long time. The food was good. The speakers were great. You know, one thing I love is when you go to a place and like no one feels alienated or you don't feel like excluded. Like he really made it. He took us on a big yacht. Like, man, it was shout out to Dre though. Yeah.
So the hosting was done excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
Awesome. Shout out to them. But you know, when we were off camera before we started the podcast, you were telling me about how much other stuff, you know, like you really are a man of your word where you're constantly informing yourself. You're constantly educating yourself. Mm-hmm. You go to a lot of these seminars. I know you're trying to bring me to one of the next ones, and I'm going to try my best to go. But we have you here, so we can definitely, you know.
You want the shortcuts.
I mean, at least for the podcast, you know, but with me, definitely I'm going to go to that next one. So we're going to tackle some dope-ass questions for everybody out there. We're going to help educate people out there. We're going to this is free information, but this is so valuable. Hope you guys can either save this, lock it in, do what you got to do with it, but follow this great advice that Wes is going to give us based on every topic and every question that I give him. So let's start off with.
All right.
Everyone talks about going viral, but what's the biggest misconception people have about it?
So here's the thing. Well, first and foremost, like, the definition of viral and what it looks like has changed a lot, right? When it comes to viral used to be like not when a video does 1 million views or 6 figures or whatever. It used to be like, you know, you did something, publications are talking about it, you know, on different platforms you're being shown, like it's viral, like it's a topic of discussion.
It's spreading,
right? Hence viral.
Right.
But now people consider viral like, oh, you know, my video just did 1 million views, one video, right? So here's the thing. When it comes, no matter what your viral is, right, I think you always want to have a system to be prepared to handle that, right? So what I look at is the biggest thing is that, like, do you have a system to monetize it? Like, what is the point of having all these people if you can't monetize it?
Right.
Or you can't connect with them? So that's the first thing I'm going to look at is make sure you have systems in place so that way you can be able to properly monetize it again, and that will put you on a second leg of doing it again and make it a normal thing.
Right. So in other words, don't bother shooting to go viral if you're not ready to back it up and where you can like capitalize off going viral?
No, what I think is that you should be in preparation in case it happens. So like, okay, look, you know, we're doing these videos, and if something like, for example, let's say you got a product. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's talk about the Popeyes chicken sandwich. You remember when that was popular?
Of course.
Okay, everybody knows about that, right?
The silliest shit ever.
Right? But guess what? They had all types of celebrities, endorsing this sandwich. But guess what? After that, you can go online and get a coupon. And guess what? And they even had a place that could take you to your nearest location. Guess what I'm doing? Call to action. Go to the nearest restaurant, use this coupon, buy the chicken sandwich, right? Could you imagine if they did all of that and you didn't know how to get the chicken sandwich?
Right.
And that's what a lot
That's
of people.
a good comparison. Yeah.
I think a lot of people need to be able to capitalize on what your system's going to be. So
that's a great analogy. I like that. Popeyes with that bullshit. That shit's so unhealthy.
It is, though.
All right.
Yeah.
Be honest. Is talent still the main thing? And we're going to stick to music on this one.
Okay.
Is talent still the main thing in music today, or has marketing become just as important?
That's a great question, and I'm gonna kind of answer it because I know it's a gray area. Talent, and I'm gonna say it with this. Everybody knows this line. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right?
Amen.
Okay. So, talent is not the only factor. Let me say it's not a factor. It is not the only factor, because here's the thing, right? Let's say you got two artists, right? You got one that's, it's in the basement. They record a bunch of songs, you know what I mean? And they got this conviction, you know what I'm saying? But then you also have somebody who has a brand. They're out there. They're not as talented, but they're in the right spaces. There's more avenues. There's just more information on them. There's more for you to connect. There's omnipresence, right? Keep that word in your hat. We're going to talk about that later.
Omnipresence.
Right? So if for somebody who's super talented, you don't see him at all versus somebody who's okay and you see him everywhere, they're going to win 9 times out of 10. So it's not so much about talent. It's like, hey, look, do you have the proper system so people can understand your talent? That's what I would say.
I think a lot of times, and I know because I've already gone over these questions, and you and I have had multiple conversations, every time we train, I feel like we talk more than I train you. We got to stop that. But I think something that keeps being mentioned a lot is finding a way to establish a system.
Gotcha.
And once you can do that, I think that raises the level of success in whichever direction you're going, whether it is an artist, a musical artist, or a business brand, or a content creator. You have to have some type of system put in place. I know I've been going ham on these AI videos like we spoke about off cam. And one of the biggest, pieces of advice that they give is, the way AI helps you be so successful is by setting up a system that just runs smoothly, and that allows you to open up your time to do other stuff, focus on other things, so on and so forth. So
exactly. I think, listen, shout out to Wade Houston, because we talked about this for a little bit, and it's systems make everything. You know what I'm saying? Everything has a system. Like, I don't care what it is. If it's successful, it has a system. Because, like, you can't, like, lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place unless you have a system to make that happen, right? So if you have a system, if you're like, hey, look, I did something good, you did the research, you found out, hey, I can do this again, what's the system to make that happen?
Exactly.
You always want to have systems because that's what's going to make it work. So let's take this back to the 9-to-5 thing we were talking about. People who want to quit their 9-to-5. Think about it like this. The only reason you have a 9-to-5 is because that business has a system for you to be in. So you can do the same thing for yourself internally in your business. So systems. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. If an artist or business person or content creator has almost no money to spend on marketing, where should they focus first?
Content.
I think this one hits very hard, right? Content.
I say this because, look, right? Content, right? Well, let's just break it down like this, right? Okay. Let's say you got a flyer, you got a billboard, and you got social media, right? Your new business, right? Okay. Let's just say, for example, you can get all of these things done for free. You can get your flyer done for free. Your homie will hook you up. You can get a billboard for free. Your homie can hook you up on that, and then you can start making content, right? The problem with the flyer is you go out and pass out 1 million flyers. There's nothing to track. You don't know if somebody liked the flyer, they threw it away, or nothing. You just gave it out there. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't help, but nobody knows. You don't know. You can't track it, right? Billboard. It might be in a prime location. Let's say, like, right off the turnpike before you get to, I don't know, AAA or wherever, right? But you don't know how many eyeballs. You still can't track that, right? But on social media, you can go and make some content. Maybe it's even like, let's say you got a business and there's a lot of common questions that people just like, you get asked all the time, right? This is why I always tell the business owners, what are the common questions that you get in your business, or even a musician? Like, what are the common questions? What are the things you run into all the time? Okay, make a video on that. Why? Because when people search it up, guess what's going to come up? You, especially if you did it really well. So that's my thing, is content.
I know that you're the specialist by all means, but I think if I can piggyback that, I would say that the law of numbers is always going to play a significant role in almost everything we do. Law of average. And the more you put yourself out there, the better chances you have of getting discovered, getting eyes, getting traction, getting followers. And that in itself is advertising yourself without having to actually pay for it. Because when you pay for it, these people, these people who have systems in place, they know how to show your content or your product or, whatever it is, your service. They know how to show it. But the truth is that you can do that almost on your own if you just put out enough content.
Yes. Content is everything is a system, and systems have formulas, right? Content has a formula too. Content creators that are successful, y'all agree with me on this. Everybody has a formula. So I think that when you understand your formula, that's where it becomes good. So it's not just, look, let me just make the conception here again, because y'all gonna learn some stuff today, right? You're gonna learn some shit today, right? It's not just, yes, it's about like, let me give the real sauce and how this goes. It's like, you don't just pick up a camera and just put anything out there, right? And you don't need to be perfect, right? So it's a balance in between those two, right? You just want to be effective. And then once you start figuring out, like, one of your videos, let's say, for example, you have an Instagram account, you start from zero, right? And let's just say you were using, the next 30 days, and you're going to put a video out every day. And then the next month, you're going to put 2 videos out every single day. And then the next day, you're going to do 3 videos out in every single day, right? By that time, you would have so much traction because there's just so much to cover. There's just so much of you. How can you lose?
Exactly.
And then let's look at, like, and let's say at the end of that, you have a product. There's just too many eyeballs. So when you think about it like that, it is a law of numbers. So
Nice. Okay. Back to the music industry somewhat. Why do some songs go crazy online while other songs that are technically better get ignored?
Well, let me ask you a question, Wes, right?
Okay.
Can you give me an example of a song you think that should have done well versus one that did do well and you didn't think it was the greatest? And then I'll give you my 2 cents on that.
Shit, man. I think it goes back to what we're talking about. I think the marketing and obviously every scenario is different. Every song is different. But if I was to give you a scenario, we spoke about this last week.
Okay.
We mentioned T.I.
Right.
And we mentioned that he has a new album coming out. He had a new hit song, Let 'Em Know.
Okay, I like that. I like that song.
And I told you, I said, listen, I'm a lyrical person. Like, I pay attention to lyrics. That doesn't mean I won't like a song if it's less lyrical.
Right.
But the less lyrical it is, in my opinion, the more it needs to be saved by a beat. By a hell of a great beat, something that thumps, right?
I ain't gonna lie, that beat was hard.
That beat, Let 'Em Know, is fire. If you haven't heard it yet, just go. It's got so much pop, and it goes in and out, and it's just dope. Lyrically, it's not his best. I'm a huge T.I. fan.
Of course.
Lyrically, it's not his best. So that's the best comparison I have right now because it's doing great. So, right. But it's not the best in my opinion. Of course. But it's doing great. So it must be doing great because of how they're pushing it. Versus what his content is.
Well, that's a good question. I love that song, by the way. So let's just take T.I. for an example. Let's take this song, Let 'Em Know. And
by the way, 50 Cent is about to put him on blast. If you haven't heard about it,
wait, what?
You're hearing about it right now. If you haven't heard about it yet, I get it because you're not into that field, and neither am I. I happen to follow a few ding-a-lings who fucking are all up in the music industry. I know that you're kind of like still 1 foot in, 1 foot out. The same shit that 50 did to P. Diddy with that documentary, he's doing the same thing to T.I. He's got one for it's called Surviving T.I. and whoever his wife is.
All right, Tiny, okay.
Tiny, yeah. He's about to go in on him. He's about to go in on them, boy. I know it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt because you're a fan of T.I.
No, it's not that. I'm a fan of 50 too, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think that shit's gonna matter. This is why I say this is because, and we'll go back to the question you're asking, is that I don't think that shit's gonna matter because here's the thing, right? we're in an age where everything's exposed. Nobody gives a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like, all right, he's probably going to expose what they did, and they just had a case that got dismissed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they won.
It was one, but it was one.
They got paid. So it's not like Diddy's thing where he has
paid. Oh, yeah,
cases,
yeah. No, it's not. Listen, I'm definitely not putting it on that tip.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt. I don't think it's going to hurt Tip.
What I want to hear is like, nigga, listen, look, 50, like, I fuck with 50, but nigga, you need to rap, nigga.
He's the king of petty, man.
Bro, I don't give a shit about none of that, bro. Like, I want to be like, if put it on wax, because you know why? Like, it's one thing. Okay, let me put it like this: it's one thing when you when you have a moment and you talk shit about somebody, but damn, when you have a song in the club and they got a vibe to that, that's a whole nother thing, bro. And so that's what I want from Fifth.
Yeah, but you want that as somebody who's into music and is into all that. No. But if you were going to talk, what's some of the best ways to deal with a peon? Somebody ignore him. Don't let him piggyback. Don't let him get bigger because you're going to give him a shout out because you're going to fire back. And instead, what do? Go low, swing so fucking low. And what does he have? He's got that documentary. So instead of answering, I guarantee he'll probably put a song. Maybe not guarantee, but he probably will at some point. Right now, he's doing the film, though.
But this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying, and we could wrap it at this. But listen, bro. Like, here's what I'm gonna say, right? And again, I have been pretty good at these kind of outcomes. So let's see if this plays out, right? Here's my thing, right? You got T.I.'s whole family dissing you, right? It's a whole family thing.
That's another thing,
which I thought I've never seen before, right?
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like, 50 probably, T.I. might have a grandson soon. Grandson start dissing, who knows? But I'm gonna say this is that, like, right, you're gonna have that whole petty thing right now, right? And the thing is that people are gonna want to hear the music. And I say this because some of the best songs that are hits, bro, they last longer. That they make the moment larger.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, of course.
Imagine if okay. 50 I think 50 is really good. Yeah, the only reason we're latching on to Diddy is because there's victims. That's the only reason, like, we're latching onto this because there's victims.
Well, technically, there's supposed to be. I know we're not trying to over-talk the whole T.I. thing, but technically, there's victims too. Technically, him and fucking Tiny, what's her name? Tiny. Her and T.I. were drugging these bitches up and taking advantage of them and putting them through some sexual fucking craziness.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
By the way, this is all for fun and entertainment. YouTube, don't not this.
Look, but this is my thing though, right? First and foremost, let me put this allegedly. Let me put this in your ear. What kind of person are you gonna let Tiny take advantage of you? Tiny about like less than 5 feet.
Bro, the story, you're making me spit all this shit out.
I know.
The story is T.I. was forcing her. T.I. says, you want me to stay with you? You still want to be my wife? I need to have other women. We gonna get them fucked up, and I want to see you jump in that. That's why when 50 blasted back and he made that statement, he said, "Your mama, your daddy forced your mama to eat all of LA's all of whatever's boxes." Meaning, he forced her to eat all them girls out. Is what the shot was at.
Well, hey, look, listen. Whatever somebody does in their private life. Here's the thing, though. Like, right?
That is true, though. That part's true.
Whatever they do in their private life is one thing. But here's my thing too. My thing is this, is okay, look, after that is all said and done, right? Let's say that's going to be a moment. It's not like they got a big endorsement. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, like, if they had a big endorsement, they were, putting on a family show or whatever, like, they're keeping it raw right now.
Right.
It's not going to hit a dent. It would be different if, like, they were releasing a show, they had, like, a brand new.
It literally is just 50 being petty, and it's 50 trying to hurt T.I. during his final run.
But this is the thing, though. This is why I say 50, I need the music, not just from a fan point, but from a strategic point, bro. Like, this man is the king of making, hit intros. Right.
I like when people get vengeance, man.
I know.
I told you that. I'm a vengeful motherfucker, and I like when people get vengeance, and you're like, oh, it took that long, but he got it. He got it. I love that.
But imagine, like, bro, I need an intro. If we're gonna have this documentary, at least make it sound good. I need an intro, like an intro song. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
All right, switching gears. So, what's one mistake that content creators, artists, and business people are making on Instagram or TikTok all the time?
One mistake that they're doing is One is that they don't have a strategy, man. Like, you could tell when you could look at an account, like I'll be honest with you. When I go in and audit an account, I could tell when somebody's just trying shit. Versus like, there's a difference between trying shit and then, executing and seeing if something works. I could tell when somebody's trying shit. So for example, right, they may do content, like for example, they'll have a mix. They'll have a bunch of different filters. They'll have videos that's not really saying nothing. There's no, like, you're not even using the platform the way it needs to be used. So let me tap into that. You, as a content creator, right, you need to use and create content based on how it's going to be viewed, right? So let's say you're making static or carousel posts. Let's say you got a nice picture, you do a carousel of a great weekend you have, right? You got to make it in a way where, like, if somebody were to come to my feed and they looked at it as a scrapbook, would it be interesting? See, that's where it changes, right? Or when you make reels, right? Here's a little nugget for you, right? Storylines. I was at the mastermind. We were talking about this, and there was a young lady that was there in the red, and she had these roses as her brand. I thought, I wish I could remember her name, but like, we were talking about this. But creating a storyline, right? Because when you're watching reels, how do you scroll? Like this, right? So let's say you got a series now. You got a story series where you're talking about, let's say, I don't know, you could take any story. You could be like, all right, let's say you say, all right, like I made $1 million and here's how I did it in 30 days, right? You got episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4. Before you get to it, you're down 30 episodes. What is that doing? It's increasing watch time, right? So you're making a reel specifically to win in reels. You get what I'm saying? So TikTok, the same thing, watch time. YouTube, the same thing, watch time. So creators, do your research and make sure that you're making content so that it's going to be effectively used on the platform that you're going to put it on. Don't wing that shit. Yeah, so I hope that answers the question.
I think that actually answers the next question too, because this, if someone really wants to grow on TikTok today, what kind of content is actually working? I mean, that's not the same question, but I guess, you're telling somebody, make sure that you have a way of hooking them to come in and stay in, and hopefully you're feeding them something that's going to keep them there and continuously go on to the next thing, right?
So it's a good question, because TikTok is a very it's the Wild West, and I say this because there is a formula, but there's not, right? Thing with TikTok, as opposed to like the other ones, TikTok is basically like, you can try a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? Your videos don't need to be overly edited. You can try it. Like, for example, with TikTok, you can use that same formula of stories or having a storyline and just posting. If a video doesn't do well, post it again. Because with TikTok, you have to be able to figure out if the formula that you're doing is working properly and at the right time. If it's hitting the For You page. So you want to make sure that you're posting consistently. That's something like, you have to almost do it more on TikTok than you do on Instagram, right? With Instagram, you could be a little bit, you can be a little bit more fancy. You could be a little more strategic. You can do less if you wanted to. But with TikTok, you want to funnel and feed as much as you can, so you can figure out where, who is going to show your stuff to your audience.
Is it safe to say that you want to approach each platform differently?
Absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a strategy of, you can definitely take a post and, put it on other platforms. You can take a YouTube short, put on Reels, put on TikTok, and see how it does. The only purpose for that is to see how the audience reacts to it on another platform, right? Because again, this is how I see it, right? If you have a video, let's say I have a video that went viral on Instagram, right? Let's say it hit 1 million views. Now I take it, I put it on YouTube Shorts. Maybe it hits 200,000. Maybe it hits 100,000. TikTok, maybe it hits 700,000, right? But now I know, with that data, I know what kind of content is going to work for each platform.
All right, Wes. So here's a good one, brother. How much does personality matter today compared to just the product itself, the business itself, or even the music itself? How much does the personality of the individual matter?
Honestly, it is the driving factor is the most important part because, and this is what a lot of companies are having problems with now, right? Companies today and businesses today are having problems on Instagram because they're not connected with people, and people connect with personalities, right? For example, right? If my personality wasn't what it was, I'm pretty sure we probably wouldn't connect as well as we did, Wes, right?
Correct.
So that's how people are digesting things. It's not just what you're saying, it's who you are. And that's what deals with the personal brand so much. So I think personality is like a big driving factor.
And is there a way for like, and this is not one of the questions, this is kind of like, I guess, secondary. If you realize, let's say you got a client, right? And this has to be, you probably already know where I'm going to go with this, right?
Okay.
Let's say you got a client and
I don't know.
They're a little lame. They're a little square. You know, they're a little whatever, bro. They're not gonna be the most marketable person because of the way they are. Whatever that is, how they dress, how they talk,
That's not true.
Okay, why? Because you're gonna say that they're gonna be marketed to the right people. They're gonna attract their tribe with their vibe.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like this, right? Even a person that like what we consider. All right, let's just put it like this. Let me put it like this. The superstar has died. That's no longer existing. So now like people like the square can shine. It just depends on how it's highlighted. You know, like for example, like let's say, okay, I'll give you a perfect example, right? There's a guy, and I never thought this would be like an influencer at all. There's a guy who makes content about going to his job. Like just to go to work.
That's it.
That's it.
He's got a nice following.
Crazy following. I'm like, yo, who the fuck is interested about like everybody's trying to get out of their 9 to 5? Like,
right.
Who the fuck is interested?
Where does he work?
He works at like some financial like building in like Tribeca, New York or something like that. But like it's literally like videos of like, oh my God, he does a video how he's gonna be late, what route he would take if he's gonna be late. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. And people are interested in that. You know,
so it wouldn't matter if you're a smooth sailor, great looking, this, that, none of that matters. You can pull it off in one shape or form.
As long as I'll put it like this, as long as you're highlighting your imperfections,
okay.
I don't think it matters at all.
On some Eminem shit.
So for all of y'all, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So get your B-Rabbit on, get on stage and say, hey, look, you know what? You're going to say this, and that. I'm going to just show you, right? So I think if you guys all right, for everybody that's scared to post, right? If you think you're not perfect enough, trust me, that's the shit people want to see. You know, like if you have a stuttering or a speech impediment, that's what people want to see.
They want to relate. It's relatable.
Yeah, nobody wants to see the superstars anymore. Nobody wants to watch the Kardashians and none of that stuff. Like people want to see, people are craving authenticity.
Right.
So if you highlight that, that's where you're going to shine.
That's why the Black Sheep perspective is what it is, baby.
That's a fact.
Okay, so
yeah.
A lot of people think streaming is where the money is. Mm. And I know I'm one of them, bro. But I'm one of them because of what I'm seeing, because of who I follow, there's some fighters who just started streaming, Rampage.
Gotcha.
And some other people, and they talk about how much money they make. So I'm on one of them. So a lot of people think streaming is where the money is. But where are artists, businesses, or content creators really making money today?
Okay, so when we talked about this earlier, I thought you were talking about another point of streaming. Streaming is a good income. However, it's not the only driving factor from streaming. You can make a good amount of money from streaming. Let me not say that, right? But the whole point of it is you want to be able to bring, these people that are following you into your ecosystem.
Okay, so pause there. Now, would you recommend that someone who doesn't have a certain following should not stream, or it doesn't matter as well? Regardless, if people are going to follow, they're going to follow, period.
Yeah, so yes and no. So it depends on what your approach is. If your approach is to be a streamer, yeah, you can start from the ground up because that's going to be your nucleus, right? That's where you're going to start from, right? But if it's not, let's say you're an Instagram influencer or you're a YouTuber or maybe you're on TikTok, no, that's not going to be the driving force basically what you want to do is that you want to take where your strongest audience is and then drive it into that. So if you're starting off as a streamer, start from streaming. But if not, then you want to drive it from.
All right, I like the sound of that. What's the biggest way independent artists leave money on the table?
Great question.
And I'm not sure if that's relatable. I know that's more musically bound, or if that's relatable to others.
It goes right into the same thing. Like it's the same thing. Like same shit as like not having systems in place so you could properly monetize. You'd be surprised. Like
that's how they leave money on the table because of that, right?
Yeah, because here's the thing, right? Like most people are gonna be like, they think this. Oh, I can make money from streaming. I can make money from shows, and that's it. And maybe selling some T-shirts. No, there's lots of different avenues. You know, you can make money from brand deals. You can make money from speaking events, depending on how your personality is. You can make money from meet and greets, from your own ecosystem. You can make, NFTs like Tory Lanez did. Free Tory Lanez. There's lots of different avenues. When you understand the system, you know where you can go with it.
And I think that's probably going to cover this one. What separates those who build real careers from going viral one time and then disappears? So in other words, those who just, went viral one time and then eventually disappear, what's the difference between them and those who have built great careers without the virality?
That still goes back to the same thing, systems right? Yeah. Now, here's the thing, right? I'm not saying everybody, when you go viral, there's some people that have gone viral and created a system from that, right? And there are certain people that have a system and then they're preparing themselves to go viral when it happens, right? Here's the thing, right? The people that go viral and don't have a system, right? Let's say, for example, all right, I don't know if you remember this back in the day. You remember the Chonga girls?
Chonga?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that? Okay.
Well, I don't mean a specific Chonga girls?
They had a song called Chongalicious or something like that.
I can't remember it, no.
I remember DJ Vlad used to play that. I mean, not DJ Vlad.
Laz?
DJ Laz used to play that, sorry. Laz used to play that all over like Power 96. Okay, so they're a perfect example of, when you go viral and they had a moment, right? They made a couple of appearances from that, but then after the whole, the coin phrase died, they died with it, right? But then you take somebody like Bad Baby, Catch Me Outside, how about that? This girl, I don't care what nobody says. Hate on her. That girl's smart than a motherfucker. Let me tell you. And I'm gonna tell you, whether it's her parents, or whoever, she knew once she got on that show what she was gonna do, at least in some aspect.
Right.
Or she knew how to roll with the punches. So you take somebody like her, she goes from that moment, from it being a coined phrase, and I hope she trademarked it. But guys, if you have a coin phrase, make sure you trademark it. It will pay you money later on in the future, right? If she coined that phrase, then she became an artist. She was doing shows from that. And then, again, I'm not pushing this, but OnlyFans. By the time she turned 18,
all the motherfucking perverts who were just dying to see her, man. They were waiting in line.
Right? So it's now, and she became a billionaire.
Yeah, man. Oh, I don't know about billion, but she's up there.
She's billionaire.
Nah, she ain't billion, bro.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Billion's too big. Billion's too big, so she can't be a billionaire.
To be honest with you, bro, let me tell you. You can look it up, but I'm gonna tell you like this: it's a lot easier to become a billionaire than you think. Just like, for example, right? Like, let me just say this, Wes. Do you think it's hard to become a billionaire?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Because I don't know enough.
Okay.
I think that's the wisest answer. I think that's a humbling answer to say, because I don't know enough. So
here's the thing, right? Back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Maybe like, let's just call it from the 1930s and up, right? Let's just say 1930s to like the 1980s. Being a millionaire was very uncommon because obviously the economy was different. It was still a baby. But now, like, millionaires are we live in South Florida. They're everywhere. Right? People when you tap into more information, you know how to get to become a billionaire. There's a lot of billionaires. You know why I say that? Because look, all right, my family comes from Nigeria, right? And I'm going to say this, and you can take this as controversial as you want. You know what the problem about, I'm black and I come from the black community, right? You know why you don't see enough, people don't really like believe that's attainable? Is because There's the only black billionaires you see are the common 5 or 7, you know, Oprah, Jay-Z, right? But in Nigeria alone, there's like hundreds of them. Right? So that common thing becomes a thing. Like, that's why you see like a lot of like Nigerians that migrate over here, they become successful because they already seen that.
Right.
That's not common.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's for everybody. So I'm telling you this, like, it's easier to become a billionaire these days. As a matter of fact, why don't you look it up?
What, the baddie part?
Yeah, look it up.
I don't know. I don't want to have no dead.
I might be wrong. I don't know. I might be wrong, but
what's her name again?
Bad Baby.
Bad Baby.
I don't know what her
net worth.
Yeah, I don't know what her original name was, but
Bad Baby net worth.
That's crazy. You come out with an original name and your stage name overshadows that.
10 million in 2019.
10 million?
Yeah, I was in
only 10 million?
Yeah, 2019.
I thought she already crossed over that.
Yeah, no. She. I mean, it's not saying anything more than that. Pretty much.
10 million. I don't know. Forbes. We got.
I mean, that was 2019. Put 7 years behind that. Could she be a billionaire? Possible, I guess, but that's a hard one. But I like where you're going with it, man, because you basically, you're making it seem achievable. And if you think something's unachievable, how the fuck are you going to achieve it? If you believe you can achieve it, and then again, you go back to what we've been circling around the whole time, the nucleus of almost the whole conversation is if you built the systems the right way and you follow the right steps, becoming a billionaire is more attainable. But
100%.
I guess it just seems so far reached that if you would have asked me millionaire, I would be like, hell yeah, I'll see you there. Be there soon, Billionaire, oh shit,
I just think it's becoming more common nowadays because like we have the information now, so I wouldn't be surprised. Now, trillionaires is very rare nowadays, but you're starting to see a lot more billionaires than you think.
All right, so how important is this? Because I know this question, when I ask it, I'm like, this is probably the most important. And I know this because you've been on my ass about it in regards to stepping my game up and stuff like that. And this is why, guys, I want to make this clear to you. It's great to hire somebody like Wes. That's why I hired him. That's why he's my mentor. That's why he's my brand manager. And the same way he takes, I take such pride in him hiring me as his boxing coach, kickboxing coach. Wes is a very successful man. He could have many other coaches around here, and there's a lot of great coaches who have been in the game a long time, but you trust me. You got to trust in somebody. You got to trust in somebody who that's their line of work, that's their expertise. You got to be humble enough, to follow that guidance. And when you say things like this, I take your word on it and all that. But I know when it comes to this portion, this question right here, this is probably your biggest. How important is branding compared to the service itself, the music itself, the content itself? How important is branding compared to that?
Branding is, I can't say, like, I can't even stress this enough, and we've talked about this too. It's the most important factor. It is the most important factor. And I say this because you won't know how important branding is until you start getting to the money. When you, even on the low level, you start touching the money, you're going to realize how important branding is. Having like brand guidelines, because here's the thing today, right? We all align with certain brands. You know what I'm saying? Like, not every brand you align with. It's like, let's say, okay, let's take, what's one of your favorite brands?
Shit.
Could be just one.
I'm going to say Pumas.
Pumas, right? Okay. Why do you align with Puma? What like, is it a person that wore it before? Or is it the comfort, like the colors? What?
It really is the comfort more than anything,
Gotcha.
And they don't go off the wall with the coloring. I like clean looks, and then I guess I paid so much attention to it. I realized that not many people wear Pumas, and I like the fact that I'm not trying to look like everybody else wearing Nike, wearing Under Armour, wearing whatever the fuck it is. So.
Right.
The Pumas happen to fit my wide, flat feet really well, majority of them. I like their style. It was not enhanced or influenced by anybody, but that's my choice.
Okay, perfect example, right? So with Puma, Jay-Z was an ambassador for Puma. I don't know if he still is, but I remember he was for several years, right? But again, monochrome, white and black. You align with that. Comfort. That you're flat foot. That Pumas makes the shoe perfect for you, right? So there are things that you align with, right? If I was like, what's the Puma logo?
What is it?
Yeah.
It's that. It's like a weird backwards check mark. I don't know. It's kind of hard to, kind of like a halfway rainbow. I don't know what the fuck to call it.
But see how you remember what that is?
Yeah.
Imagine if they didn't have, any branding.
Right, exactly.
It'd be very hard for you to identify, much less remember. So I always use this as an example. Where I actually learned branding was, we talk about 50 Cent. I learned about branding because I met the person, I can't forget his name, but who made the 50 Cent logo, right? So if you guys ever see the 50 Cent logo, it's a big 50, says Cent. And the reason why you want that is because every time you see a flyer, it's there. Every time you see a shirt, it's there. And they have a brand deck, and they send that out the same way. So that way you're able to understand and connect with people. It's a super connecting point and the most important point of your business.
So I know you normally charge for this, but so then how would you tell somebody start working on your branding? What is that? I mean, obviously, if you guys hire Wes, he'd give you all the details and he'll be busting your balls the same way he does mine. But how would you tell them right now, how can you start branding yourself? What should you do? Does it involve a logo? Does it involve, find your color palette, find your logo, find what you stand for, that type of shit?
So what we tend to do in my company, the Connectors, basically what we do is we go by archetype, right? So we basically have a strategy that finds your archetype. So that way, when we understand that core understanding of like who you are, where you come from, what you stand for, when we break that down, then we could align all the other stuff.
So somebody would have to kind of do that on their own if they didn't hire anybody to.
You could do it on your own. I mean, you totally could do your own. I mean, I don't recommend it. And here's the thing. When we talk about mentorship, I'm not saying this to, make everybody buy into me or anyone else. It's just that, look, pay for the shortcuts. Pay for the shortcuts. That's the whole point of mentorship. You know what I'm saying? Because, yes, you can try something on your own, but if you're not 100% delved into it, you can miss a lot of steps. So, yeah, but, to give you guys an understanding when it comes to your branding, you need to understand who you are, what you stand for, what your archetype is. When you figure out that, you can know what to align with. You can know what your brand's going to be, who's going to connect with the most.
So your business, the Connectors.
Yeah.
If you got somebody right now,
right,
fresh off the bench, fresh off the bus, fresh off the fucking computer chair, maybe doesn't have much going on in regards to like following and all that, but they know what they want to do. They know where they want to go. If you're going to launch this person right now, what's your 30-day game plan moving forward?
Now when you say launch this person, is it a business, an artist? What are we talking about?
Let's go with a content creator.
Okay, content creator. Okay, perfect. So this is technically a personality. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to do their archetype, right? Who they are, what they stand for, what their story is, because that's going to tie into their content. It's going to tie into whatever else they're doing, right? Once we figure that out, what we want to do is we want to be able to figure out a content strategy plan. We also want to figure out their brand kit. And then the next thing we want to focus on is what a long-term game is going to be like, who you're going to connect, and also maybe even trying to figure out what the short-term goal is and what their long-term goal is. When you have that, we can use all of that information to dive into those pockets.
Break it down. Okay. What's one digital marketing tactic that most creators and businesses still don't understand?
Okay. I'm going to say this on the short term. People don't fully understand SEO, right? They fully don't understand search engine optimization.
SEO, search engine optimization.
Let me put that into perspective for you, right? We talked about that word omnipresence.
That's right, we did.
Okay. So omnipresence is basically, to put it in a nutshell, is basically how you're found on multiple platforms, right? This allows people to connect with you in multiple ways, right? So people think that SEO is just, doing something on Google. It's just having, keywords. It's just having a website, those kinds of things. But that's just the first part, right? There are many other parts. Your content is part of your SEO. If you're doing a PR campaign, you're getting press, things written about you, that's part of your SEO. When you're doing YouTube videos, that's part of your SEO. Because the bigger the track record you have, the bigger connections. And what it does is, let's take somebody who's consistently been doing that for an entire year. And let's say somebody is discovering you for the first time and there's just so much for them to dive in for you, right? You have a higher percentage of them converting to a product, becoming a diehard fan, coming to a show, buying into your business because they're going to get FOMO. And everybody wants to be connected to something. So.
Makes total sense. It does.
Yeah.
What's something that the algorithms reward more often than not, but most people are unaware of it?
The algorithms definitely focus on watch time. That's today. Today is watch time. Again,
watch time over likes?
Way over likes.
Way over likes.
Way over likes.
And both of them over subscriptions?
For YouTube subscriptions, yes, that does play a factor, but no, watch time is going to be king. Okay. Today is watch time. Because remember, everything is basically video today. Photos don't translate as much as video, so it's definitely watch time. So if you guys are like, when you start a video, when you're doing something, play with your hooks. Play with how the storyline is going to be. Play with stories, using those as a factor, so that way you can be able to drive them to watch the entire video. Because remember, we have short-term attention spans.
That's right.
So with that being said, you got to make sure that you're doing things that are going to keep people there.
Instead of using that term, short-term attention span, which is accurate as fuck, I dumb it down and said it's a TikTok world. And that means it's just a TikTok type of attention.
But what if you're not on TikTok?
Well,
we get it, though.
Yeah, you hear about it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
All right, what's the biggest opportunity people are sleeping on right now in the digital marketing world?
GEO.
GEO, and what is that? Now this is
All
new.
Right. So now we talked about SEO, right, which is search engine optimization. That's how you're being able to be searched, right? GEO, and there are other names and phrases, but this ties into how you're going to be found on AI, on Perplexity, on Gemini, on ChatGPT, because that's where everybody's searching now.
Right.
There's no longer like, yo, you can't even go up to nobody and be like, Google me. I'm not on Google now. I'm on ChatGPT.
Right.
So now with GEO, if you have a business or if you're a personality, you're found there. You like, if you get on that now, that is a gold mine. That will link everything else. That's probably like the most important.
Well, goddamn, Wes, man, you really have blessed everybody watching today, with hella great information. It's kind of wild, dude. It's almost a surreal moment. Even when I met you and how our friendship grew and where it is now, and even hearing all this shit that you're spitting right now, because you've done this, you've told me this type of things, in many different of our sessions, my sessions with you, not the boxing sessions. And we've done it hanging out socially. You told me a lot of this, but I've never heard you say it all the way you have today, almost like a fucking seminar, really, And it's just such valuable information, and I appreciate it, and I hope everybody here uses it to help, implement and get themselves somewhere in a better place with what they're chasing, or maybe even reach out to you. But I want to ask you this, brother, because you're giving everybody else advice, and you've been in this game long enough. You're very successful, but I know you're barely scraping the surface right now. I know you're going to do way better. What's some of the best advice that you've gotten in the past? And it doesn't have to be primarily pertaining to the business that you have. It can definitely be. I've heard so many great things about your father. Bless him, rest in peace. I wish I could have met the man, because you speak about him so highly, that I know he plays a big role. But it could be anything. When it comes to 2 or 3 times in your life where it was like, man, that piece of advice there, that went far from here, and this one went far from there. And what's something that you can share with us that really hit you hard?
To be honest with you, there's one that comes to mind, and it is from my dad. So my dad used to always speak in proverbs. That's just how he used to do stuff, like, so that you can figure it out and put your own take on it. But my dad used to say this, because he would say, I can only be your father. I can't be your mother. I can't be anybody else. But if you put your ears to the ground, you can hear the footsteps of an ant. And why that's so important. At first, like, when you're hearing, you're like, what the hell is...
No, I caught it right away. I was like, damn, I like that.
Like, what is that? But, what I get from it is that, like, sometimes, there are things in your life. There are things in your life that you're going to be dealt certain cards that, obviously are going to be in your favor. But for everything else, you can keep your ears to the ground, and you can figure it out, and there's great knowledge to be obtained out there, even if you weren't born with it, you know. So that's always been like my driving factor and my claim to fame. So yeah, shout out Pops for that.
That's dope, man. Appreciate you sharing that with us. And what about in the business world? Was there anything? I mean, you've met so many. You said it yourself. We live in Florida. You've met so many millionaires. You've had so many different to this day. You have clients that you still can't disclose, the information. You've worked with a different array of people in different wealth brackets. What about them? What's something that comes to mind of something that they might have told you?
I remember I have a mentor, and I don't know him. I know him, but I know he's a little bit like iffy about what business information, but I'll just share with you what he said, right? He said, I remember one time, like, I met with him to go to the Lifetime in Boca. And then, and mind you, I'm coming from South Florida. So I'm coming from South Dade, and I'm like, I'm going up at 3 o'clock in the morning to meet him at 5. And then I remember him saying, he goes, how much traffic did you run into on your way up here? I know it's a distance. And I would say, like, nah, no traffic at all. And so he's introducing me to these other people in the gym, and they're all like very well off, millionaires, billionaires, etc. And he said, that's how you have to treat your life. If you stay in your own lane, you never have to worry about traffic. Yeah.
Like that. He snuck that one in there.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Brother, well, I can tell you from coming from myself, and I know I can speak for many people watching, man, I really do appreciate all this dope-ass information you've given us. And more than anything, man, I've told you this off camera, and I'll happily say it out in front of everybody, man. You really have become one of my closest friends, a true brother from another mother, Our friendship continues growing, and I see us doing ginormous fucking things. Lots of big things. And I'm trying to say that humbly and, not get all out of crazy, but you know how I get with it. You put excitement in my life when you start mentoring me and you tell me and you remind me of the shit that I got to do, and you paint these pictures for me, and you give me the blueprint, and it really hits hard. It really does. Every time we have a session and you leave, I'm like, I got to take something to make me calm down. Like literally, I tell you that, I lose sleep. Now I'm staying up to like 12:30. I used to average, 10:30, 11. It's really big since you came into my life. I just keep thinking about shit. What do I got to do tomorrow? This and that, work on this, da-da-da. And it's been a blessing, brother, and I appreciate, having somebody like you in my life. And thank you for that. And everybody out there, how can they reach out to you? What platforms can they find you on, and how can they reach out to the Connectors?
Absolutely, you guys can reach out to us at the Connectors Can on Instagram, the connectorscan.com. You can definitely reach out to us. Like I said, we do free consultations. Again, we're not here we want to be able to help and provide value to anybody that is working with us, because at the end of the day, if we make you guys look good, we look great. So
that's dope. You're not gonna plug in your little personal page, my boy over there, woo, looking fly on the personal.
I will. I mean, that's quiet.Wes' church. If you guys want to follow me on that, that's totally fine. But if you're looking for any like business inquiries, definitely go to the Connectors Can for sure.
Right on, man. Hey guys, this was the most valuable information. One of the most best times that I've had a podcast guest spit such valuable information that all of you guys can use. You guys see all these people on fucking YouTube. You follow all these people. They're giving you see them on Instagram. You see them on TikTok. They're all spitting these quick fire type of advice. Well, now you just heard a whole dope ass podcast from somebody who's actually real right here. It was uncut. It was unfiltered. This is how we get down in Black Sheep. And now you guys got all the tools and the steps that you can take to go in the right direction. And reach out to the Connectors, reach out to Wes, and go ahead and reach out to me. Guys, I appreciate all the love and support that you guys keep showing. We're over 10,000 subscribers. We're about to hit 11. Help us out. Share this with somebody. Don't forget to click subscribe, hit that like button, and we'll catch you guys on the next one, man.
Hit that subscribe button.
Yeah. Peace.